I have 6:28, FYI.
Same.
Can you hear me, Heidi?
Yes.
Oh, good. Let's see. Hello, Nyla, Juan, Lauren, George, Clara, Elpidia. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what we got.
Oh.
Quorum's here. Welcome.
It's making my hands sweat just waiting for this to turn.
And if we have any questions about the extreme weather shelter, Mike is on Camp Hope there when we get to it. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. We're going to be hearing the remote meeting instructions by our city clerk, Heidi Riojas.
Pursuant to Governor Inslee's emergency proclamation regarding suspending certain provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act during the COVID-19 outbreak, the Toppenish City Council will not accept in-person public comments. All members of the public wanting to comment on City Council agenda items may submit written comments to include your name and address for the record in advance by email to the City Clerk by 4 p.m. on November 9th, 2020, to be read during the meeting. To remotely attend this meeting, register by selecting Join a Meeting. Call-in information for listen-only mode is 253-215-8782, meeting ID 872-0386-0591, passcode 696771. Email the city clerk or call 509-865-6754 with questions.
Great, thank you very much, Heidi. And we are going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
States of America and for the republic
for which it stands, one
nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Heidi Riojas is going to go ahead and do the roll call.
Actually, we need to approve the agenda first. I apologize for that.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
So I have a motion by Councilwoman Clara Jimenez and seconded by Councilman Lauren Belton. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I am so sorry. I was wrong. I guess I'm kind of nervous. You are correct. We do need to do roll call. I will do that now. Mayor Oakes. Mayor Pro Tem Saavedra.
Here.
Councilmember Belton.
Here.
Councilmember Seha,
Here.
Councilmember Duval,
Here.
Councilmember Garcia,
Here.
Councilmember Jimenez.
Present.
Let the record show Mayor Oakes is absent. However, we do have a quorum.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to excuse his absence. He did let us know at our last meeting that he was not going to be attending this meeting. So I would make a motion to excuse his absence.
I'll second that. I'll make a motion we excuse Mayor Oakes.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Jimenez and seconded by Councilman George Garcia. All in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
There's a lag. All opposed? Okay, motion passes. And Heidi, so I pass this on to Heidi.
Okay. Advanced public comments received by 4 p.m. on November 9th, 2020 to be read by staff at the meeting. Let the record show the city did not receive public comment by the stated deadline.
Okay, excellent. We're going to go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. All matters on the consent agenda have been provided to each council member for review and are considered to be routine or have been previously discussed and will be adopted by one motion and vote without discussion. However, if a council member desires, any item on this agenda will be discussed before any action is taken on it. I will entertain a motion.
Are you going to read them for the viewing public?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes.
That's all right. It's all right.
5A, approve minutes of the October 26, 2020 special meeting. 5B, approve minutes of the October 26, 2020 regular council meeting. 5C, approve minutes of the November 2nd, 2020 study session. 5D, approve payroll checks numbers 35093 through 35103 and electronic transfers in the amount of $160,994.78 dated November 6, 2020, and approve claims checks number 92769 and 92771 through 92855 and electronic transfers in the total amount of $459,298.95 dated November 9th, 2020, and void checks numbers NR85268 and NR92537. I will entertain a motion now.
Move to approve agenda in its entirety.
Second.
Great. We have a motion by Councilmember Belton and a second by Councilwoman Jimenez. All in favor?
Point of order, we need to ask for further discussion.
True. Any discussion? No? Great. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Great, motion passes. So we will move on to new business and our city manager Hoyt is going to proceed.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and good evening, Council. As a follow-up from the recent city manager performance evaluation for the 2019-2020 year, and facilitated a process by Mr. Dave Bercier, there's a proposed contract amendment number 4 and accompanying resolution 2020-53 to approve that. Following the executive session at a special meeting on October 26th, council came out and in open session asked city staff to create the amendment number 4 to the city manager's contract. There's 2 items on there. One is to extend the term of the contract 1 more year. So the current contract would be from September 1, 2020 through September 1, 2023 to be approved annually, and a base salary increase of 4%, increasing the base salary to $114,267.
Move to approve resolution 2020-53, amendment to city manager's employment agreement.
They need to not be on there. They need to come by phone.
And I'll second that.
This is a council meeting, not, I mean, that's.
I think it's Debbie who's speaking on the meeting. She might need to mute. Thank you.
Okay, I wasn't sure who I was hearing there.
Yeah, really.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve resolution 2020-53 and authorize the mayor pro tem to sign amendment number 4 on behalf of the city to extend the term for 1 year. All in favor? Do we do that? I'm sorry, I thought the discussion came after the okay, any discussion? Just clarifying.
You just need to ask for further discussion before you vote.
Right.
Right.
So no discussion? Great. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Any opposed? Great. Motion passes.
Thank you.
And Peter, we were just waiting for you to say all those in favor say aye and all those opposed say nay. That's why we're kind of waiting for you to tell us to say aye or say nay. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. New business. Receive an update on the proposed location for the extreme weather shelter. In the last couple of weeks, we didn't have a site to house the new or another extreme weather shelter. Yakima Valley farm workers approached the city to offer the existing building we used last year at 508 West First Avenue. They also were in communication with Mike Kay from Camp Hope and Pastor Dave Hansen from Sunrise Outreach. And their hope is to go forward and open that shelter again, especially since the winter weather is upon us. They ran the building last year, or the program last year. They had proof of liability insurance, compliance with an emergency temporary shelter operation requirement via the Toppenish Fire Department, and compliance with an agreed upon operation safety plan that they had instigated there. The only other item that we would like to add to that requirement is to be in compliance with any COVID-19 level 2 requirements that the Yakima Health Department would have. So we have Mike Kay. He's on, he's there, I think.
Yep.
And if we have any questions, we would like to have a motion to approve the extreme weather emergency shelter operated by Camp Hope and at 508 West First if they're in compliant with all of the 4 requirements.
So Director Mike, when do you think, for the viewing public, when do you think you're going to open up this extreme weather shelter? Lance?
Mike, are you unmuted, Mike?
Yeah, I am unmuted. Oh, there we go. For the benefit of the council, our goal would be to open up before Thanksgiving, which is a pretty aggressive timeline given the amount of work that would go into just putting together a normal extreme winter weather shelter. But obviously with all of the COVID restrictions as well, there's an extra layer that needs to go in there as well. We are very confident that we would be able to operate the shelter safely. As some of you know, Camp Hope is one of the only shelters that has remained COVID-free this entire time. And so we intend to bring those policies and procedures down to operate the extreme winter weather shelter in your city as well.
And do you think it's going to go until like April 1st, like it did this year?
We're currently scheduled to close around March 1st. However, in talking to all the people that want to collaborate on it, there could be the possibility, depending on the type of winter that we get, that we could stay open longer if there was a need for it.
Council remembers that earlier this summer we had some CARES Act money for homelessness that was given out. And if we didn't have a program, we were to probably participate with the county as a consortium to help the homeless in Yakima County. So our monies went to Yakima County. Yakima County is in the process of appropriating approximately $40,000 to put back into the Toppenish extreme weather shelter to help manage that. We have Mike's hope is to hire some Camp Hope people to staff the building. They're experienced, they're trained, they know how to run the process, and they're experienced with the homeless population they'd be working with. And Yakima Nation Village of Hope is an opening this year, as far as I know. They had some other trained personnel that would be available to also help with that process. And so that's kind of where we're sitting right now.
So just for the viewing public, can you review the operation hours that are planned?
The current operation hours that are planned would be from 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. with the plan very similar to last year, where we would be busing people out of the area to drop-off points, such as, I believe it was referred to as the compound last year, being one place as well. And so the idea would be to try and get them out of the main thoroughfare of downtown where the building is currently located.
Right. And I recall that they also were asking the people staying at the shelter to sign some sort of a good neighbor agreement. Is that something that will happen as well this year?
I think there's a set of rules.
Absolutely. It'd be very similar.
Go ahead.
We have a set of rules that we use at Camp Hope. One of those is a good neighbor agreement, which does not allow them to be panhandling, urinating in public, using drugs, things like that, out in public spaces as well. And so that would be our intent, is to use the same things that we use up here, just down in Toppenish. And we've had a great deal of success with limiting neighborhood complaints from people experiencing homelessness that stay at Camp Hope. We had pretty good success last year as well with that. And so we believe that we'll be successful again.
I, for one, am really glad that there is going to be an opportunity for people to have somewhere to stay. And I'm just really thankful that this is something that we can look forward to providing for the people in the city of Toppenish.
Right. I do want to just offer up for the council as well, is that we've been going down and doing what we call street outreach in your city for the last 3 weeks. Some of that includes feeding like hot soup, like that. We're averaging 78 people a night when we're going down there. And so there is a distinct number of people experiencing homelessness. If it's anything like what we're seeing up in Yakima, that number is climbing as the weather gets colder and colder. And so we are seeing that. We are also going to be providing the same services that we have in the past with your law enforcement and fire as well, where they'll have access to our HOT team, which is the team that will come out, pick up people experiencing homelessness and bring them not only to the Toppenish shelter, but the other shelters that are currently operating as well, to try and take the burden off of your law enforcement and firefighters, because as we know, they're all stretched really thin with COVID as well. And so we'll be providing that. We'll be including this year, which new to the program, is instead of people calling an ambulance to go to the hospital for non-life-threatening emergencies, we'll be providing transportation like we do with Virginia Mason Memorial up here, where we can take them in one of our sedans as well and try to limit the drawdown on 911 services. And we've been very successful in this area as well.
Great.
I do want to be clear though, that this shelter will be open for everyone, not just tribal members. And that's something that was out there before last year, that it was only for tribal members. Obviously welcome at the shelter. However, it's open for everybody that's experiencing homelessness in your area to have a safe place to be during the night.
When you say in your area, are you talking just in Toppenish, or are you talking anyone who's near Toppenish?
Well, ideally, your shelter in Toppenish is going to have a limited number of beds, especially with COVID. And so we would like to keep it to the Toppenish area. However, we do have some capacity at Camp Hope for folks, and we're fortunate we're not a great distance away from you. But I would expect to have some folks come in with Noah's Ark being down still. You know, there was, just for the council's benefit, when we stopped by there, we fed 15 people that were sleeping outside in the parking lot there. And so we're also looking at, you know, how soon does Noah's Ark get up? That gives us another 30 beds that can be offered to people experiencing homelessness, because there is a great number of people in Toppenish alone that I think will probably fill that shelter to capacity.
And I know that's what I want to see. It's for the people in Toppenish, because we have our own problems here. And I just don't think that we should be having people from around the area be taking beds that are so needed by people within our own community. So I just think we need to keep the focus on the shelter is for the people in Toppenish. Mm-hmm. So that's my number one.
I would agree.
Now, my second question that I had for you is, I know this is extreme weather, and I heard you say you open up at 6 p.m. and they're out at 6 a.m. in the morning. But you know, correct, it's getting very cold. Even like yesterday and today, it was cold out there during the day. So what are you planning on doing with them during the day?
Well, you know, during the RFP process that the county had, you know, back, we actually put in an RFP to try to make that shelter a 24-hour solution for people in Toppenish. So in other words, much like Camp Hope, they wouldn't have to leave at 6 in the morning. They could stay there. We are looking at that as an option. However, the amount of money that's being given by the county is not enough to pull that off, because with a 24-hour shelter then comes not only one meal, but 2 other meals. Mm-hmm. You know, hygiene, some other stuff comes into play there as well. But I will share with the council that we're actively seeking some of the other donors and whatever grants that we can find to kind of scramble to try and make this 24 hours, if we can potentially do it and do it safe.
And if you can't do it,
COVID,
do you have another idea?
It's much safer for them to do it. Yeah, so we would do what we did last year. We would allow them to get on our bus, and we would transport them up to Camp Hope for the day, where they have access to showers, laundry, things like that. And then they would come back down in the evening. We did see quite a bit of success with that last year.
Yes, thank you.
Are you going to have an opportunity to let our community know in regards to any donations that you may be needing, any supplies, cleaning supplies? I'm thinking it's going to be on the top of the list.
Yes, Madam Mayor, that is our intent. However, I wanted to at least be able to answer your questions as the council first before anything goes out in the media or anything like that, so that we have kind of a united front, and that if the council saw something that they wanted, they were passionate about to be provided in that shelter, we wanted to see if we could accommodate that before we went any further with the idea. And so that's something that Lance and I have spoke about. This obviously, if this motion carries and we're going to go forward, then that of course would be the next step, because you do have a lot of people in your city that care a lot for the people experiencing homelessness, and obviously we want to harness that as well.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Yeah, sanitation, the bedding and everything, you know, once they leave in the morning, who's gonna be doing the laundry or sanitizing?
That would be me. So what we do here with them is that ideally what we did last year is we assigned them a bed, and that was their bed to stay. So we'll have beds that are assigned to certain people. That bedding stays with them, and then it's cleaned every third or fourth day, where we actually bag up the bedding individually. We'll bring it up here. We'll wash it up here, and then we'll return it the next night. We also are looking at partnering with one of the hospitals in the area as well that has access to the sanitation type washers and stuff, for lack of a better term, like they do with their bedding. And so far we're at least in a good spot with conversations with them about that being their contribution to the shelter, where we could bring some of the used bedding up. They would sanitize it, so on. We'll provide some workers there to fold it, that kind of thing, and then bring it back down.
Okay. Any other questions?
So with COVID now, how many people can you actually get there per night?
Well, if we go with the spacing, we think we'll have room for about 36 beds, which would be 18 men, 18 women. Okay. We do have room for some additional space if there's a need for it. Again, we won't have the Red Cross cots like we did last year because of COVID and the inability to sanitize them effectively because they're made of cloth, obviously. And so we have a different method that we're going to use this year. But we intend to also even go kind of an extra step, maybe, if you will, by asking people to wear their masks when they sleep, which is kind of a challenge with this population, but we've had success with it here, as well as I've had discussions with your about hanging a visqueen curtain in between the beds as well as a droplet barrier as well. And so we have kind of a rough plan, very similar to what your fire department does with their sleeping quarters.
Mike, there's a question on chat. Elise Washington's asking if what would be the additional amount of funding needed to push the extreme shelter from 12 to 24 hours?
Well, you know, obviously with us not taking any administrative costs and stuff like that, we think we could do it for about 75 to 80 total. So we also have an additional donation that was made by Farm Workers Clinic to get the ball rolling of $15,000. And so I know they'll be doing part of the public press release, Madam Mayor, with us on that. But we're at least going in the right direction of that. We wanted to get the approval of the council first before we really started trying to ramp up to raise that money to make it a 24-hour shelter. And I want to be clear with the council. There's pros and cons with a 12-hour shelter and a 24-hour shelter. There's pros and cons both ways.
Mm-hmm.
So the first step tonight is to get council's permission to go forward with the shelter. And then we can invite you back for an update on how the program's progressing and what's happening in the next council meeting or two from now.
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Great.
Mike, before you go, just an observation that I had while I was there volunteering last year. Just as a precaution, just because there is COVID this year, what I saw was that there was no running water. And my concern is that, you know, they won't have any water to wash their hands.
Yes, that was an issue last year. We're looking at a couple different things this year that if a couple dominoes fall our way, where we'll either bring down a restroom trailer, very similar to what we have here at Camp Hope. We have another one that's on order for the expansion of Camp Hope with the portables that may be here anytime. If it gets here in time, the hope is that we could redirect it down there and it would actually hook right into the water system and the sewage system. So we would have hot water on demand, all those good things. If that doesn't work, we have some military sinks, for lack of a better term, where they're sinks that with foot pumps that will pump the running water so that they can use their hands as well. And I have the largest supply of hand sanitizer. We've actually stocked that quite a bit. So we have a ton of that available as well to try and do what we can. And we've had pretty good success with using the military sinks in a combination with our running water and the hand sanitizer with keeping our folks COVID free up here. And we're currently serving a population tonight. We're sleeping 97 here.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Great. Okay, thank you, Mike. I really appreciate it. At this moment, I will entertain a motion to approve the extreme weather emergency shelter operated by Sunrise Outreach and Camp Hope at the building location 508 West 1st Avenue, provided by the Yakima Valley Farm Workers, with condition that it is in compliance with EWS safety contract, safety plan, as well as compliance with the Yakima County Department of Health COVID-19 guidelines.
So moved.
Somebody move.
Move to approve.
I did.
Okay.
So we have a motion by Councilwoman Duvall and seconded by Councilman Belton. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much.
Oh, scared me.
Yeah. So Lance, you'll continue on new business C.
Okay. All right. So tonight we're going forward with our department budget presentations. I'd like to thank all the department directors and Debbie and her staff for getting all this around. It's been quite an undertaking. A lot of man hours were put in, a lot of weekend work, and we're happy to bring this balanced budget to you. So I'll go first. I'll start with section 4 of the legislative and executive portions. So go to, in your budget books, page 56. Remember, if you have your budget books there, you can write in them now and as you review that, and then contact us to make any final upgrades or changes before we have our public hearings and adoptions in the near future. So our legislative, I'll start. Basically, we're looking at keeping our city council priorities live and rolling forward. Their town image, resident pride, code enforcement issues, city entrance appearance, graffiti, gangs, crime, and tribal relations are always very important. These aren't in order of importance, they're just all important. So we have in the legislative budget, which is your budgets, there's a total of $40,780 in there. As you see at the top, there's $35,000 in there. That's for salaries and wages for council. And as we drop down in there, there's professional services, $12,000. That's for any, I'll spit it out, Lance. That's for any seminars or retreats or assistance that we may need. And then down, we get into $3,500 for travel, and in memberships and registration, $7,100. Those two items, we don't know what's going to happen with COVID. As we know that all the AWC and all the trainings have been pretty much virtual, but there's still a registration cost, and they are reduced. So that's where your city council's budget runs in there at $40,780. So are there any questions about that?
Lance, how close did we get to actually spending our allocation this year?
Let's see if we got that. I don't have the, yeah, we spent about $5,000 last year for memberships and registrations and $1,000 for travel. This year, we didn't get hardly, we were like $100 and $100 on those because there was basically no travel.
Mm-hmm.
So let me move forward to page. Now I'm blanking out here. Well, as we go through here, let's go to page 61. That's the estimated revenue for the pool or our aquatics. No, I'm sorry, that's what's at the top. All right, here we go. Let's go to page 64. That's the executive department. That's the city manager, the executive assistant, Mid-Valley TV, and parks, recreation, and pool. In there, as we at our last study session when we started the budget process, I shared with council that recreation and aquatics were zeroed out this year due to COVID. We don't know where we're going to be next year. We don't have a parks and rec director at this point with James Cole retirement. And we're only in phase 2, which really doesn't allow for recreation and aquatic programs activities. So we're kind of in that situation where we're holding. The other item that we're holding on is tourism. Tourism is the money that we get from business licenses and hotel motel taxes, that we use that money through an RFP project to promote tourism in the Toppenish area. See if I can find those places. Anyway, those groups that usually get tourism money have been notified that we're not doing that this year. Our money kind of dwindled down, and we're having approximately $6,800 left in that account. That's on page 72. I'm jumping all around. And we're expecting our hotel motel tax, where we usually get, we got $26,000 plus or minus in 2019. We're estimating $14,000 in 2021. One of the big reasons, well, COVID was one of the big reasons for the lack of revenue, because there is no tourism and traveling. The other event that happened is Yakima Nation, with their COVID money, purchased the Quality Inn for positive cases for COVID for quarantine. So basically, the Quality Inn, one of our major hotel motel facilities, is now off the market. And then business licenses, we received 24,000 in 2019. We're assuming we'll get about the same 24,000 this year. So those total revenues, the 14 and the 24, and the $7,000 that we had in the ending fund balance, we have about $44,830 in there.
City Manager Hoyt, can I interrupt for just a second?
Please.
I just wanted to remind council that we had talked previously a few weeks ago at one of our council meetings, where if we were to have a change with COVID next year, we could come back and we could do our tourism program, do the request, and we can always do a budget amendment to push this forward through 2021. So just because we didn't budget anything in 2021 doesn't mean we're dead in the water with it. We can still do something with it if COVID changes in the first part of the year.
Okay, thank you, Debbie.
So Lance, I have a question about the pool. And my question about the pool is, I know we're putting zero amount because of COVID. We're not going to have the pool open, and we're not going to have parks and recs. I understand that. But if I remember correctly, we were always told that there was always maintenance that had to be done for or to the pool every year, either late fall, in the winter and then in the spring, that there was always some kind of maintenance. So my concern is if you zero it out, does that mean you're not going to do any maintenance to the pool? And if
yes and no. Basically, the pool was put to bed last year, and so it was drained, and everything was drained, and so that protects all the piping system there. There's an open drain system there that when you get the precip water from the winter and the snow, that goes on through. We'll probably have to do a flushing or something to make sure all that completely stays open and the like. One of the big items there is the boiler. That's also been winterized and turned off, so it's good until we have the opportunity to use it again.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep. And so now, Heidi, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. Let's go to page 67. And basically that's the city managers, the executive is the city manager's line items. You see my salaries and wages are in there. A portion of those are in MVTV. And then as you drop down through there, you see, I guess, basically telephone. The travel has been reduced, and members and registrations that have also been reduced, and those are reduced due to COVID. That's just kind of what's happening. We also have the legal services, which is our city attorney, and we've kept that at $55,000. And that's kind of a rush, but I know we have a lot of things to go forward here, a lot of other sections and department heads presentations to go forward. So I know this whole night is going to be pretty quick. Please write in your books if you have any questions or concerns. We can come back and answer those questions for you. That way you have them written down and they don't get away from you. So are there any questions for legislative and executive?
Well, I was wondering, being that the facilities are going to be closed, wouldn't this be a good opportunity to renovate some of those buildings or do some kind of maintenance to them? I know that they haven't been in a very long time, but I also haven't been in them in a long time.
Well, the basic question for that is to do a renovation to a building, you pretty much need to have it inspected, a design made, come up with funding for that, and then you can go forward. And hopefully we would figure out a way to get grant funding to do that. However, those are general fund expenses, and that's why they haven't been, money's hard to come by in the general fund. That's one of the reasons why they haven't been improved. This year, the Parks and Rec building is going to be used by Public Works for a while as their office while we're waiting for the new public workshop to be built. So that's not a fun answer, but it's kind of a realistic answer. So.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. This section 4, MVTV, Judy Duval. Is Judy there?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. The Mid-Valley Television budget expenditures begin on page 75. All line items of the day-to-day operation expenses have been held to a minimum. With the onset of COVID-19, communication and information for the public about city government has become more crucial than ever. Meetings and departments were closed due to the public by governor's order, and operations were changed overnight. Meetings became virtual. The city website and Facebook, along with MVTV, were utilized immediately to get much needed information out to the citizens. As reality became clearer that we would have limited in-person contact with the citizens for an indefinite amount of time, Zoom meetings were arranged. In that process, the city identified equipment needs, such as a video production laptop to broadcast the Zoom meetings, a digital audio transmitter, and council presentation needs. Some of the technology will be provided by CARES funds. In review of aging equipment at MVTV and the equipment that still broadcasts in analog, in the next few months, an equipment upgrade to digital technology is in the works. The time is right for digital conversion. The technology is faster and of higher quality for less expense. There are many features to be excited about. 3 new internet protocol cameras will be fed to the MVTV studio from the council chamber, along with digital audio, and will be mixed at the MVTV building into a production switcher to add graphics and agenda chapter points. At the conclusion of the meeting, the chapter points in the recording will index to the agenda. The meetings will then be searchable. In addition to the digital upgrade, the city is adding live streaming and video on demand. The meetings will be streamed live. It will have the ability to stream to many social media sites concurrently, and then archive to play on many devices and at any time citizens want to view it. Toppenish Council Chambers will be upgraded later this month and into December with the hope of streaming live in January. Beginning 2021, Granger, then Wapato Chambers, and the MVTV studio will be upgraded to complete the workflow. In 2020, approximately $75,000 will be expended from the Capital Equipment Reserve. And to finish the conversion, another $45,000 in 2021. The digital conversion has also required communication with Spectrum Cable, and they have confirmed they will upgrade the analog broadcast of channel 192 and 194 to digital. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Are there any questions?
For the viewing public, could you explain why we're interested in the Granger and the Wapato updates?
Yes, MVTV operates with the interlocal agreement between the cities of Toppenish, Wapato, and Granger. And in part of this workflow to transition to digital, their equipment is also aging and will need to be upgraded. And it'll be upgraded in the same manner as the Toppenish Council.
And just to be clear, these upgrades are basically something that we have to be working toward, right? We can't just stay where we're at right now. Is that correct?
That's correct. The analog equipment from MVTV was purchased in 2000 to the year 2003. And so you can see how the age of this equipment is. And now we're getting to a point where we are analog and the rest of the world is digital. And eventually that'll all be phased out.
And Judy, I had a question about the equipment. Is there a way that we could, since it's an interlocal agreement, would Toppenish and Granger and Wapato be able to help pay for that instead of us buying their own, or is this just for our chambers?
Well, the equipment is funded through the franchise fees and the B&O tax. And so it's collected by all 3 cities. And that's what funds the enterprise fund of MVTV. So they do contribute.
So all 3 cities contribute to the improvement of from the analog to the digital. We also had the opportunity because of COVID to use monies from there to upgrade the city of Toppenish's as well as MVTV, which is the hub for all 3 cities.
Well, and the key here is to realize this is an enterprise fund and not a general fund expenditure. So,
yeah.
And I think we lost the city of Zilla. Is that correct?
Yes, they withdrew.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions for Judy? Okay.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank
Thank
you.
You.
And just an update, the study session that we had on the 2nd, we have some Facebook stats. We had 89 people were reached, 47 were engaged, and we had 1 positive comment. So we're getting some airtime and people are watching out there. So we appreciate that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess the next would be Section 5, Administrative Services. Debbie Zabel.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We're actually going to back up just real quick and go through some financial items for the entire budget, and that would be on page 30. And I'm just going to go through these real quick. This represents the city's debt schedule on page 30, and on page 31, it does list the projects that we received loan funding for, the term of the loan, the balance that is owed on it. On page 32, it just shows a breakdown of the debt schedule, and the city's total debt at this time is, I should say at the end of the year will be $18,516,000. Heidi, can you go to the next page? This is a 5-year trend of revenues and expenditures. You can peruse this at your leisure. It does break everything down by the fund. This is revenues, and then the next page is expenditures. And page 38, Heidi, the next page. I presented this information in just the revenue format at our previous meeting, and now it has the expenditures incorporated into it. So this is just for 2021. It shows all of our revenues by sources and then all the expenditures by sources. And if you go to page 44, this does have the summation of all of the funds that shows all of our beginning fund balances, all of our revenues, all of our expenditures, and our ending fund balance. On the bottom, you'll see there are numbers that are in brackets under each one of the funds, and that shows that we are using ending fund balance for that year. And I want to just clarify that although it looks like we're using a lot of ending fund balance to the tune of $5 million, the largest share of that is for the public works shop, which we have been saving money for the past 2 years to rebuild that shop, which we will expend this year. So now we can go on to section 5. And so I'm sorry.
I'm concerned about the ending fund balance being used. You're saying we're going to use how much again of the ending fund balance?
For the whole budget, it's $5 million, but the largest share of that, 4.185, is for the public works shop. So that's where that's coming from. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then we did put the budget together a little differently this year, and we did it by basically by departments. And so the revenue didn't really have a good spot. So I stuck it is sitting behind the legislative division of the budget. So if you're wanting to go through the revenues, that's where you will find those at. They did not change very much from what was presented previously. Okay, so now we can go to section 5, which is page 78. And this begins the Administrative Services Department. And this is a fairly large department, although we have a very small amount of people. We cover a lot of the city's business, and we take care of all of the finance, city clerk and records management, human resources. When Bill Rathbone retired, we did move code administration into administrative services. covers municipal court, information technology, and then general government services, and then risk management. The total budget for the department is $2,417,000, and it does have a breakdown for each one of the divisions or sections and how much those dollar amounts are for each one of those programs. It does include the addition of 2 employees that we talked about at our last meeting. One of them is the code administrator building official. In evaluating the code administration section, which was formerly the community development department, and it had a department head. I don't believe that a department head is needed to cover that. We just need a manager that would be able to head that division and take care of some of the higher level work that does need to be done. And we currently have like 1/10 of a code enforcement officer, which is handled by our fire chief, and Fire Chief Smith will go over that more in his budget. But in keeping with council's priorities and some of the problems that we've been having, we really do need to look at bringing on a full-time code enforcement officer that can help get a handle on some of the things that are going on in the city. So there is an increase in this budget due to the replacing of the director position from 2019 to a manager for 2021, and then the addition of the code enforcement officer. I do have on page 81 that covers our general government, and on the bottom left-hand side, it does show you, and this is just really for transparency purposes for council and the our viewing audience. We do fund a number of programs out of the general fund, and that is the railroad depot, the library fund, or the library building, the street fund, the cemetery fund, and the pension fund. And the total amount to be transferred into those funds is $329,000. And then we do transfer out of the general fund to go into our equipment replacement fund dollars for police vehicle, fire vehicle, computer equipment. And then we do transfer money into our capital reserve fund. At our last meeting, it was mentioned that we should look at doing more of a depreciation and replacement plan, which the public works superintendent and I will start working on, and I believe he's going to talk more about that in his budget presentation. I would like to, I think we have page 83 and 84. I am highlighting these pages just because the salaries may look like there's more salary dollars in 21 than there was in previous years. And that is partly due to our cost allocation plan, where we had employees funded out of our central services, which is the care and operation of City Hall. And so part of our cost allocation plan was we had to take everything out of that that budget that didn't have to do with City Hall. So those salaries had to be moved either into finance or clerk or human resources. And we also did add our deputy city clerk and human resources position in 2019, so that it reflects these changes also. And I wanted to talk about the miscellaneous funds, and those are on page 94. And these are funds that we do receive income for, and we do have expenditures out of them. We don't have staff. There's no staffing out of these funds. It's more capital projects, or like, for instance, the Welcome Center Fund and the Railroad Depot funds. These are small funds where we do participate in the care of those buildings because we do own those. We pay for insurance and any maintenance that would need to occur on those. And one of those would be for the Welcome Center this year. There is, there's a lift station for that building that needs to have some repair done on it, which is $3,500. So that's part of would be part of this budget. And behind page 94 and 95 are the individual line items for each one of those funds that explains what the dollars are being spent on. And I do believe City Clerk Riojas was going to give an update on City Clerk and Records Management. I will turn that over to her.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight regarding the budgets managed by the City Clerk's Office that include records services, which encompasses public records requests and records management, the Employee Wellness Program, and the Tourism Fund. I'm going to briefly go over each of those items with you. On page 84, records services, City Clerk provides support for the City Council and the City Manager with the preparation and distribution of agenda packet materials, maintains the official records for the city that consist of the official minutes, ordinances, and resolutions, responsible for the codification and publication of the ordinances for the Toppenish Municipal Code, reviewing and processing public records requests. The year-to-date processed records requests as of today are 297 requests. The total processed requests in 2019 were 422. The 2021 goals for records services include creating a records management program to make use of the Washington State Archives and digital archives for the preservation and maintenance of the city's historical records that date back to 1907. That was my last year's goal before COVID, so I'm going to just roll it over to 2021. I did also have a goal of having the Attorney General's office come on site, which we were able to do in February before COVID. And so that was a success. We did reach out to other agencies and they were able to come on site before we were in complete lockdown. Next, Employee Wellness Program, which is on page 85. Bear with me, I'm doing this and the presentation. The wellness program is offered to employees to educate and promote healthy lifestyle choices. The city has received the Well City Award since 2009. The Well City Award provides the city a 2% insurance premium discount that is roughly a $20,000 savings for the city. The wellness program is a cost to the city of less than $3,000 per year, and a portion of funds received from a reimbursable mini grant from AWC, once we achieve a 50% participation by employees, is used to also fund that program. In addition to the Employee Wellness Program, the City Clerk's Office also manages the Tourism Fund, which unfortunately this year is not going to have an RFP process that normally I would be telling you about this time of year. Hopefully next year things will get opened up so we can continue that program. Do you have any questions? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Heidi. You're doing well.
Thank you.
So Heidi, my concern with the tourism program is that we used to have 3 motel hotels in town. We know that one is now off the market because the nation bought it.
Yeah.
I know that we still have one more. I'm not sure about the other one. So I really I'm really wondering though, if we're ever going to get back to where we were with the money coming in, because we used to give hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
I don't think we can do that anymore, even if it opens up, to be honest with you. Because if you only have one motel in town, how much could that be bringing in?
That is a great question. this will hopefully be a study session item that will be discussed further by council in December, so that council can make those decisions on how they want to proceed with tourism in the city, what that's going to look like for you due to COVID and the limited tourism funds that we are receiving. The fund is also funded 75% of the business license. So the bulk of that fund is actually city funds that have been set aside for that, just to make that a robust program. So hopefully we can think outside of the box to continue this for the city and for our businesses, and just to have people come to our great community.
Thank you.
And were there any questions regarding any of the items that have been covered so far that you would like clarification on or more information on?
I had a quick question about the wellness program. Do you feel like there's been more participation or less participation?
Actually, more participation, which is surprising because we have not been able to have our on-site events. So we've had to have drive-through lunches, which have had a great turnout. We achieved our 50% the 1st of July, which was also considering our great raffle item, which was this great cooler. But we achieved it. So then we received our mini grant. And this year, AWC actually made that to be a double mini grant. So I just submitted for our other half, because in July that had not been released, but now it has. And since that time, we've had a few employees that have left us. So the amount has gone down, but still we have another $170 coming that's going to help us to do something wonderful for employees by the end of the year.
That's great news. I'm really happy to hear that, especially these days. It's so
Yes.
important to stay healthy and to, you know, just to do what we can do to stay healthy.
It's really important to engage with staff as well, because being so restricted from engagement with each other is really a factor that is really diminishing on the well-being of people. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm very passionate about, as you can tell, I get excited. But
that's so great. It's so important, especially right now when there's so many people struggling with mental health issues. And a lot of the times I know in the past when people mention mental health, they think, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with me. But when people are feeling more blue or down or less motivated, that is part of that mental health. And it's so important for people to try to maintain a really healthy mental health at work and not to feel that added stress of everything else going on with COVID and, you know, everything else happening in the world right now. So that's so important to try to be positive and healthy.
And for people to reach out if they do feel that they just can't do it anymore. There are resources available to our employees with our employee assistance program. We have an app available that gives just different ideas on how to address it, even coaching. There's lots of resources, and HR is available if need be for on-site guidance too.
That's such great news. Thank you so much, Heidi. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions for Heidi or Debbie? Since we had a segue of feeling blue, it's perfect time to go into the police department with interim Chief Tim Bardwell.
Thank you, Lance. Thank you, Council. I'm going to refer you to page 114 in your book. That's the beginning of the police proposed budget. And our proposed budget for 2021 is $3,144,226. And that will fund the operation of 6 divisions within the police department. The 6 divisions are administration, which includes myself and Dave Johnson, who's a captain within the police department. Patrol, which should have a full complement of 10 police officers and 2 sergeants. However, we are down by 3. We're working on rectifying that, hopefully pretty soon. Operations is our detective division, investigative division, which Captain Johnson is also a part of. He's our only detective at this time. Dispatch and records, we have a total of 5 dispatchers right now, and we have a proposed position in the police departments for a records specialist, which would handle the public disclosure requests that the city gets. And we contract with Sunnyside Corrections and Yakima Department of Corrections for our inmate housing. And that also includes inmate medical. And we also contract with animal control for our animal control needs. And I will go through really quickly what each division is responsible for. The administration division consists of myself and Dave, Captain Johnson, and our main function is overseeing the operations of the entire police department. Planning, research, program development, as well as planning the budget, which, to be quite honest, this is my first time I've ever done a budget, so it's been very interesting and enlightening. Next page, please. The patrol division consists of currently 8 officers and 1 sergeant. And they are tasked with enforcing the day-to-day operations out on the street, uniform patrol. They concentrate on crime prevention as well as education, which is 2 things that we do as law enforcement. We are there as much to educate as we are to enforce. The operations division is also known as the detectives division, also investigations. Currently, we only have 1 investigator in the division, which is Dave Johnson. As we hire more officers, the goal for the department is to place at least 1 more investigator in that division to assist in investigating crimes within the city. The communications division is responsible for records within the department, for some public disclosure right now, as well as their primary function of dispatch. They take calls from the public, and they dispatch any calls that need dispatching to the patrol officers. As I said, corrections is handled by contract through both Sunnyside and the Yakima County Department of Corrections. And in 2021, both of those are proposing, well, they're increasing the rates for inmate housing. For the DOC, they will be increasing from $67.50 a day to $85 a day for felony and high-risk inmates. And Sunnyside will be increasing from $47 a day in 2020 to $53 per day, effective January 1st of 2021. And animal control, that's the next page, Heidi. Animal control, we contract with them for 1 animal control officer for the 3 hours a day that we get him. And we're currently working on a new contract with them. So we're operating under the old contract at this time. We currently are in the process of hopefully hiring more officers. We have on November 18th, we have a lateral and entry level oral boards for candidates. And we have a total of 17 entry level candidates right now and 3 lateral candidates. So I'm hopeful that in the next few months, we will be up to a full contingent of police officers within the police department. And we're continuing on the training. And as everybody's mentioned, COVID has made it more difficult to get training. However, in law enforcement, we're very lucky with the Criminal Justice Training Commission. They have a lot of online training, and a lot of it's free for us. So I have every hope that we will fulfill our 24-hour in-service mandate this year. Does the council and anybody have any questions for me? Very good.
I don't have any questions. I just have a comment that I'm really hopeful that we can fully fill the positions on our police force. That would be very beneficial to our residents.
I am too. I hope to do that before I leave here.
That's great. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Anything else? Thank you very much for your time.
I do have a question. Sorry.
Go right ahead.
I was interested a little bit in the position that the record specialist, and it's kind of a question for you and Heidi. Currently, who's doing the records requests? Have those numbers gone up?
So actually that that position is, we were proposing to move the deputy city clerk HR position and reclassify that and bring it to the police department. But that proposal did not, it did not work out the way that we thought it was. So it's going to stay back up in the executive upstairs with the city clerk and the city manager office.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right.
And then I did want to note that we do have one capital expenditure for the police department for next year that would be coming out of the capital reserve fund. And it is for $65,000 to remodel the patrol room and some of the other areas in the police department to kind of, you know, update that and bring some freshness to the department.
Great.
Thank you, Tim. Now I guess we're ready for section 7, fire. Tim Smith, fire chief.
Good evening, council, mayor. Pleasure to serve you and a pleasure to be here tonight to present the budget. Total budget for 2021 is $1,137,260. Again, we cover we'll cover administration, fire suppression, emergency aid, and some fire code enforcement. As you see, we have a vacant position. It was funded last year. Council approved it for last year. We were getting ready to hire when COVID hit. It was decided by myself after a meeting with staff that we should probably hold off to see what COVID would do to our revenues and what it would do to personnel here. As soon as COVID hit here, we did lose a firefighter for a period of 6 weeks because he did come down with COVID. And then, so it had an impact on overtime, and then overtime went up just to cover his position. So it's kind of, we probably should have made the hire anyway, but hindsight, we're back healthy again, but we're still down to one position. So the proposed budget for 2021 is to hire that individual as soon as we can in 2021. Firefighters, we've had our year has been hectic because of the fact that it just changes up everything for training. All of our training stuff has been on Zoom. We just resumed last month when we got permission from the health department. We did resume training, in-person training last month with some restrictions, 5 people per area. Everybody's in a mask at all the time. But we're not getting a lot of return back from our volunteers. COVID has scared a lot of our volunteers and personnel. You got people that are volunteering for the fire department that don't want to bring this disease back home if they contact or come in contact with a COVID positive patient. And we come in contact with COVID positive patients every day. And so they've been staying home, and our paid personnel have been exposed, but we're again using all precautions, mask, gloves, gown when we can. And excuse me for a second here, I gotta silence a phone call here. And so we're taking precautions. We haven't done any business inspections during those 5 months. We're back to doing business inspections since business is now open back up. So we won't be able to complete most of them by the end of the year, but we're gonna get probably 80% of them completed by the end of the year. If you go to page 129 of your book, emergency medical services takes up about 75 to 80% of our responses. We have 1,200, we're gonna average 1,200 responses for the last 3 years, which is higher than normal. COVID is part of that. Homelessness is another part of that. But 1,200 responses for the year is also putting stress and strain on our fire engine. And that's why this, you'll see in the budget where we increased our contribution to replace our fire engine that is approaching 18 years of age, and our ladder truck, which is also approaching 20 years of age. COVID has just been one of them years that just wrecked everything for us. It affected our income. We had a contractual agreement pretty much with the Yakima Nation, with the casino, when we were successful and obtained the grant for the replacement of the ladder truck. And we did it over a 4-year period, agreed to do it over a 4-year period. However, with COVID affecting their operations out there, they were lacking funds for their third payment for this new ladder truck. So our third payment got cut in half, and we extended the period for what you're going to pay for it from 4 years. It's probably going to go out to 7. I'm hopeful that we can get back on the schedule and get it in 6 years. But again, we agreed to a $900,000 ladder truck, and that was 3 years ago. We won't find one for $900,000 in 6 years, because the cost of apparatus goes up anywhere from 7 to 14% a year. And so what we could buy 4 years ago, we can't buy today. Public education, we haven't been able to get it in the schools because schools have been closed, or they're doing distance learning. They're now gradually opening back up. I think Toppenish is scheduled to open bring another grade on next week into the schools. They're doing 1 grade at a time, I think, at this time. And so hopefully we'll get back to normal, or get back up to full schedule for schools and education and fire safety, fire prevention. Code enforcement, as was mentioned, has taken a tremendous toll on my time that I can use for fire service. Code enforcement uses about good 65 to 70% of my time is for code enforcement, which is taking time away from the fire service when I can search for grants and other things. I was successful in getting a grant this year for $147,000 for the replacement of our air packs. And those have been received. We haven't put them in service yet. We're waiting on some training, but that was one success for this year. I did put in for a new fire engine beginning of the year through FEMA. I just received word that we got denied in the last round. Again, we made it all the way to the last round. We were denied. So a new fire engine for $550,000. We got to go back to the drawing board, and I'm going to apply again. And then we got to start saving. I'm looking at lease options for fire engine. There's pretty good lease options out there. So we'll be exploring all that, probably with a study session or with staff. But anyway, you'll see in the page 130, we have a success on code enforcement. We have a lot of vacant structures in town that we've had to board up. Code enforcement, get complaints on it from neighbors, drive by, and we work on it with the police department, with drug activity there, all the complaints and stuff. But there is a good example on 130 of a success we did have. Took a lot of months of paperwork, talking with the judge and attorneys, and you see that there is a success, and we got about probably 12 more to go like that, but it's going to take time, and it's going to take man hours. I'll take you right into the budget because we did have some significant increases. Page 134, you'll notice on the salaries and wages where it shows a decrease in salaries. We since our responses are 70% rescue and emergency aid, we transferred funds from fire suppression over to that fund, which is on page 136. So you will see that we've just changed funds and put them where they should be based on our percentages of alarms from 70% emergency aid to 30% fire suppression. You'll also see in there a significant increase in personal protective equipment, which includes turnouts. Turnouts are expensive. For me to put a set of turnouts, which is a helmet, hood, coat, suspenders, pants, gloves, boots, and now a SCBA mask is $3,800 per person. So any new volunteer that comes on, I have to outfit them with turnouts. Hopefully I can find some that we have in our storage and our cache, but these are all custom fit for comfort. And so we've been somewhat lucky to recruit people that are average size, but again, now they have a 10-year limited life on them, 10-year manufacturing date. Once that garment hits the 10-year mark, you have to discard it. You can't, we can sell it to other countries that don't have those requirements, but we can't use those garments anymore. So that was an increase, was turnouts. If you have any questions, service and repair and maintenance on vehicles, you see a large increase there. I went over in that category because beginning of the year, we lost a fire engine. Our fire engine was set up to Yakima for a simple service and repair, and they left it set outside, and it caused about $65,000 in damages, which they paid for.
Wow.
But while it was up on the coast getting repaired, they gave it a once over and they found cracks in the frame, cracks in the cab where the cab was ready to fall off the frame, something that we couldn't see. So they had to go in there and do some welding and grind it out to put it back in service. And so that cost us an additional $23,000 that had to come out of the city's, out of my budget.
Wow.
So.
And we also have a capital expense for the fire station that is also budgeted to come out of the capital reserve fund. And that is to repair a sewer line that runs under the fire department. And it happens to be asbestos. So it's going to be a very expensive sewer repair. So we do have $65,000 budgeted for the repair of that sewer out of the capital reserve fund.
Back when they built the station back in 75, I believe, Councilman Garcia, correct me if I'm wrong.
You're right.
75, they put all our sewer pipes and stuff in concrete and built the thing on slab. Well, something has happened and it's collapsed and we've got some cracks. And now we got sinks that won't drain, and it's not a pleasant sight at the fire station when they're not draining correctly.
Oh boy.
So it's going to have to be jackhammered out and removed and redone. So that's it in a nutshell. If you have any questions, I would love for anybody to come down and we can go over this if you want to one-on-one. If you have any questions, I'll sure entertain them right now.
I had a couple questions about the code enforcement.
Okay.
And I mean, to me, that's such a priority because I hate driving around town, which I do a lot, just because I like to get out and just drive around. And seeing all these properties that are abandoned and boarded up just irks me so much. And my question is, what is it that we can do to get those? I mean, are they like property owners that don't live in town, or what is the issue with that? I don't understand how people can own a property and just let it get run down so bad that it just, it's.
A lot of it is, there's three things that affect that. We have two parcels and actually three parcels in town, excuse me, in town right now that have, the owners have passed away and there's no heirs left. And so we have people that break in, steal, trash the place. And when I get notified of it, we go in there and we secure it, board it up. And then we go through the process of, through the state, there's a process we go through to find the owner or any heirs to the property. And it takes time. I got one I'm working on, we're going on 3 years right now. And there's no taxes collected, there's nothing, but we have expenses cleaning that stuff up. We have it boarded several times. We've had public works in there picking up trash and stuff. We're doing what we can do, but it's just costing us a fortune. And the state is slow getting back to us because of COVID on this. But that's one case. Another case is because of the sovereign nation of the owner of the property of being Yakima Nation. I have no code enforcement authority over those properties. I've been trying to work with the Yakima Nation and we have been successful in a couple cases, but again, that takes time to get those identified and to sometimes a homeowner, even though they're Yakima Nation descent, they will comply. We've had real good luck with that just by talking with them, send them letters. And so that's the second case. And the third case is we've had several people that have been hospitalized, that are in the hospital or a nursing home, but have nobody that can take care of and maintain the property. And so we've had to secure it because while they're in there, people break in and steal their belongings. They break in and come and go as they wish out of the structures. We board them up and we keep them boarded up. They tag on with graffiti, public works, or we have the crew that goes around and paints out graffiti. They've been real helpful in painting all that out. But we're talking somebody's personal home here that, you know, I just can't go and paint somebody's house when they're not around. And so,
is there any way that we can get, especially on that third issue, is there any way that we can get maybe those people connected to a nonprofit, like a church organization that can have people that wouldn't mind going over there and just helping them out while they're...
That's a great idea. Several years ago, we worked with an organization. I can't recall their name, but they're no longer doing it anymore. They would go in and clean up properties twice a year for the elderly, senior citizens and stuff that didn't have that, weren't capable of cleaning their own property up. But I've lost contact with them and I haven't seen them in town anymore.
Okay.
But
well, maybe
that's something we can sure look at.
Yeah, definitely touch base with some church leaders. I'm sure that maybe that's a good place to start to seek some information. But thank you so much, Tim. I really appreciate the info on that.
Not a problem. Any other questions? I've been getting a lot of help from Victor. When we hired Victor last year, that position, a lot of my code enforcement cases that were coming to me shouldn't have been coming to me. They should have been going to the proper division. And so that's helped out a lot. Like parking issues would come to me. If I would do what I could with those, but those are now going to the proper division, which is the police department. We would get stuff about garbage in the alley and stuff. That would go, that now goes to public works and stuff. So it's helped taking some of the load off, but there is so much that needs to be done about, you said, housing that is dilapidated that needs to be corrected. That a full-time code enforcement officer, and I would still assist. I'm not going to step away 100% because I too have an interest in the appearance of the city, and I still would assist with this. But he would sure take a load off of my desk.
And part of the other workload that goes with code enforcement is being able to see it all the way through to the end, which may involve going to court. And that's just something that we have not had the manpower to be able to do.
That's correct. Any other questions? I would entertain any questions.
Now, I'd like to compliment you, Tim, for the work that you've been doing. I know you do a lot of after-hour stuff with the city doing code enforcement. I'd like to commend you for what you've done, helping to keep the city clean and enforcing stuff when you have the time. So I really appreciate it.
Well, I thank you on that. Councilman Garcia was good. He still is good. I see him taking down yard sale signs on power poles and stuff, and all that stuff is picking up the trash out of the city, and that's all. I'll have the back of my Tahoe will be plumb loaded on Saturdays or Sundays when I pick up boxes and stuff that aren't supposed to be placed out for yard sales and stuff. But no, thank you for the compliment.
You're welcome.
Just a shout out to my guys at the fire station. They're all interested in the budget as much as anybody else is. And so, and I thank them, all the volunteers that may be out there watching. I thank you for your service. The city thanks you for your service. And we'd like you to come back to work, and we'll get through this together, believe me.
Thank you, Tim.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lance, is Rocky going to continue?
Hello.
Rocky, are you there? Oh.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, there he is.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Excellent. It's my pleasure to present the 2021 preliminary budget. We're going to begin on page 138. And I just want to go over the Public Works Department mission, which is provide for the care and maintenance of the city's infrastructure, facilities, parks, streets, trails, pathways, cemetery, water, sewer collection, sewer treatment, storm collection, solid waste collection, and graffiti removal. The Public Works Department oversees and directs the following divisions and services: city facilities, parks, maintenance and operations, street system, maintenance and operations, and capital improvements, the cemetery, which is burials, maintenance and operations, and perpetual care, water system, distribution, maintenance and operations, and capital improvements. Sewer system is collection, treatment, and capital improvements, stormwater collection, and solid waste collection. If we could move on to page 143, we'll go over the general parks. Okay, so since I have so many different divisions and we always seem to lose time, I'm just going to go to the very last page. It gives the total parks or the total funds. For the 2021, we're requesting $299,285. This is a requested increase of approximately $69,000 from what was approved in 2020. $40,000 of that $69,000 is for the purchase of new parks mowers. And as Administrative Services Director Zabel and I, we have been discussing how we will fund this, and then also begin a replacement program for the parks and the cemetery, which we don't currently have. $16,625 is due to an increase in salaries and wages. We have an increase of $5,000 for professional service. This is due to the minimum wage continuing to increase each year. And then the remaining approximate $7,000 can be found throughout pages 142 and 143. Does anyone have any questions on general parks?
Professional services deals with the part-time or the seasonal employees that are hired to help.
That is correct. Okay, let's move on to page 148, and this will be for the street fund. The total street fund has been reduced by approximately $28,700, can be found on page 147, which is the electricity for street lighting. That reduction is $27,000. And that's due to the LED project that we completed last year. I think it was a great project for the city and for the citizens. And being able to reduce the street fund by $27,000 just in that one line item, I think is a fantastic improvement for the city. Are there any questions in the street fund itself?
Rocky, if I can add something to your street fund in regards to the revenues.
Sure.
We have had a loss of revenue because of the vehicle license tab fees, which did fund the street fund. So that is why our general fund has such a higher amount of transfers going into the street fund. But if that changes, we will be able to put the funding back into the street fund and reduce that general fund transfer with those funds.
Yes. Thank you, Debbie. We're going to move on to page 151, which will be the cemetery fund. The cemetery fund has an increase of approximately $26,000 from what was requested in 2020. $20,000 of the 26 is for the capital purchase of a new cemetery mower. The additional $6,000 increase is spread throughout the operations expenditures and 151. There's so many things that go up and down throughout the cemetery fund that it would take too much time to cover it all.
Can I add one item in there? This will be the last one.
Sure.
So Public Works Superintendent Wallace and Accounting Manager Bethune have been working on a cemetery software package for our cemetery. We still sell cemetery plots based on a big board that we use colored pencils, and we have the opportunity to utilize some software that would allow folks to be able to buy grave sites online and pay online instead of having to come into the city. And that cemetery software is, it's $35,000, and it is supposed to be funded out of the Special Projects Fund, the 050 fund. as it would be able to provide a service to the whole city in being able to purchase plots and setting fees and be able to do that online.
Hey, Debbie, is that something that we have planned to do, or is that something that we are that we should consider doing?
It's something that staff is requesting council to approve.
Is that something that we have available in the budget?
Yes, it is. It is included in the special projects fund, and that would be in section 5 if you wanted to go back and look at that. But that is included in there. If council does not want us to go forward with that, then we would take that out. But it is staff's recommendation to go forward with that.
And if it were approved, how long would it take for it to be implemented?
I will defer that question to Public Works Superintendent Wallace.
It will be implemented within the first year of purchasing it.
So what, 12 months is a long time. So are we looking at the first quarter?
I would venture to say by the third quarter, because there will be some training for all staff that will be utilizing this. And then also we will have to put in what our parameters are for the program. This is something that you have to build. And so each thing that you add or subtract from it, it just takes a lot of time. So I would say no later than the third quarter, hopefully by the second quarter, but I don't want to commit to the second quarter, honestly.
There'll be a lot of data entry to populate that with the existing graves and the vacant graves and all that data that has to be correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But purchasing your grave plot wouldn't be the only option, correct? People would still be able to purchase it in person.
Yes, we would still have it. We'd still have it in person. And the one thing we're going to do is we're going to move the cemetery administration upstairs, so it's more in a more private place for people to come and do business for their loved ones that have just passed. So we're going to try to change up the operations just in general.
Debbie, currently, if anything, I'm sure it will. Currently, if something does happen, is everything being done over the phone?
It's being done by the phone and through the front door.
Oh, okay.
So folks are still, we'll pass paperwork through the door. We did set up a table in the lobby because it's getting colder and we don't want people to stand out there and freeze to, do some of the necessity business that they have to do, like cemetery plots. So that we are trying to help them with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to page 154, and this is for the Street Capital Fund. So the Street Capital Fund, I'm just going to go over the projects that we have coming up. The STP Jackson Street, we're going to start the right-of-way engineering and the acquisition phase. And that's going to be approximately 210,000, excuse me. We have the STB set aside project, which is going to be West First Avenue, and this will be construction. We're going to hopefully get that out around at the latest March. When the weather breaks, contractor will be able to come in and get that sidewalk constructed, and that's from Howard's on West First to city limits, and that's on the south side of West First to match the improvements that were made on the north side. We also have a safe routes to school project. That's going to go on Dayton Avenue from North Beach and then along down to Pern. And then we're going to have a little pathway on the north side of Lincoln Park. And then it's going to continue on to Ellensburg, and with an ADA crossing at Ellensburg and North D Street, and then a sidewalk on Zilla Avenue from North F Street to North G Street. One of the highlights for this year is we were able to complete the Lincoln Dayton Beach Street project. And so that's why you see such a reduction from 2020 to the 2021 budget. Are there any questions on street capital fund or of the projects? Okay. So now let's move on to page 159, the water fund. So on the water fund, this is the 401, the total water fund will have a decrease of approximately 48,000. Oh, excuse me. The total water fund has a reduction of approximately 365,562. We have the total revenues is going to be projected as a decrease of approximately 48,000. And then we also have our unreserved ending fund balance on page 166 is projected to be a decrease of $374,774. Are there any questions on the water? I know I'm going really fast, but I only have about approximately 10 minutes left at that most. Okay. We're going to move on to page 165, which will be the wastewater fund. The total operation expenditures for the wastewater fund has been reduced by $472,295 from what was approved in 2020. You'll notice on page 160 that our unreserved fund balance has been reduced by $1,067,281. Council will remember with our sewer improvements project, phase 1 through 4, it has been, we projected to be spending all of our reserve fund balance as part of that project. The city's contribution is $1.4 million. So we expect to spend all of our reserve fund balance by 2022.
And we will be coming to council very shortly in 2021 to assume the interim financing through the Cashmere Bank that council approved last year for this project that Rocky's referring to.
Yes. Are there any questions on the wastewater fund itself? Okay. If we can move on to page 170, please, Heidi.
I do have one very positive thing to report. We do have 2 sewer loans that are being paid off this year. So our debt will be going down in 2021 for the sewer fund.
That's great news.
That is very.
Okay, so on page 170 is the total solid waste fund. This has been reduced by approximately $253,452 from what was approved in 2020. 244,117 of the 452 is a reduction in the unreserved fund balance on page 166. The additional approximate 9,300 is a projected decrease in charges for goods and services on page 166. We will be continuing to do our capital purchase for containers at $20,000. That can be found on page 169. And then we'll be transferring out to the vehicle replacement program $80,000 for solid waste. I should have mentioned the water and sewer at the time. I apologize for not doing that. So in water, we transfer out 40,000, and in wastewater we transfer out 50,000.
Into the
Are there any questions in the solid waste? Yes, into the 510 fund. Okay. There's no questions on solid waste. I'd like to move on to page 172. So 172 is for the Water Capital Fund. Staff has been working on a water meter replacement for our current water meters or registers. Our registers have a battery life of approximately 10 to 15 years. After the 15-year mark, we don't really get it's not beneficial to buy new registers and put them in because the meter has been in the ground for 15 years. And so it does have some wear on it. What we're finding is the registers themselves are not sending the read to the computer for drive-by. And so this month, I believe we're reading 250 meters by hand of our 2300. And each month we're losing approximately 50 meters. And so it won't be long and then we'll be at half and then we'll be reading meters by hand. And so we'd like to get a step ahead of this before it gets too bad and begin a water meter replacement. And we'll be looking for a local loan. And we're going to, with this, we're projecting a 2-year process because we don't want to pay people to go out and install these water meters or registers if we can help it. If Public Works can do it, I would project that we could do half of the registers or meters in 1 year and then half the next year. So we do have to take out a RFP for the registers only, or we can, and also we're going to have an RFP that will have registers and meters themselves. And we'll find out which one is the best way to go on that.
So
I hope
Rocky,
that's clear.
So Rocky, I think I heard you say that they're not reading all of the meters. And so I'm wondering if they're not reading all of the meters, and I know we're billing them, billing the public, what if when you finally read it correctly or it does read it, are they going to owe money? No. Or are we just going to go forward?
No. So what we do is when the truck drives by, the radio signal sends it out to the computer in the vehicle. And if it doesn't send the signal, then we have to go back and hand read it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so that means we go lift the lid every month. And so now we're at the point where we're doing 250 reads by hand this month. And we're projecting next month 300 or possibly more. Unfortunately, we got to the point where they just started dropping off the batteries. Yeah. And well, the register sent a signal every 3 seconds. And so now the batteries are getting low. We have a mechanical read on the meter itself. So we are able to hand read. And so the water consumption is recorded every month. It's just getting to where instead of being a day and a half, right, it's just taking longer.
And when the reads don't come through, we find out in the office. And so the office staff has to spend sometimes a couple days going through, finding out which ones didn't read, They have to make a list of all of those. It's very labor intensive for having an electronic system. We spend way too much time, staff time working on it. So we make a list, we send that back out to the crew. They go do hand reads. They bring that back in, and now we have to go and hand enter all those reads back into our financial software system so we can get the billing out in the short amount of time that we have.
Now, I heard the word loan. Where do you think you're going to get that loan from?
So there would be the opportunity to go through the state, through the local loan program, where they have, they're fairly short-term loans, 5-6 years. That is the program that the city originally went through to buy the initial radio read program that we have. And I believe it was a 6-year loan for that. It would be paid 50% water and 50% sewer for right. the debt service on that.
Okay.
Are there any other questions with the water capital fund? Okay. If we can move on to page 173, please. So on page 173, we're going to go over the wastewater capital fund. Currently, we are finishing up phase 4, which is actually phase 2 of the sewer improvements project. It has been a successful project so far. We've reduced the amount of million gallons a day coming into the treatment plant by about half or more. So we've been very happy with our results. The next phase is going to be phase 3. And so the total wastewater capital fund request for 2021 is $6,610,000. And that's going to cover the engineering and also the construction of the phase 3 of the sewer improvements project. That is all I have for this evening. Oh, page 140 or 174. I don't know why I added that. Are there any questions on the Public Works budget in whole? I would invite anyone to let me know if you'd like to meet one over anything within the Public Works budget. If you have questions, please let City Manager Hoyt know, and I would be happy to answer any of those questions for you.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Rocky.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rocky.
Thank you, Rocky.
Thank you.
Okay. Guess we're to new business number 7, council meeting reports and community announcements.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lance. So let's go ahead and begin with Council Member Belton.
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Council Member Ceja.
Ooh. Where is he? There he is.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
I had hit the wrong number. I have nothing to report.
Okay. Councilwoman Duvall.
I have nothing to report.
Council Member Garcia.
I did another blood donation at the American Red Cross. That was due for my 58-day donation, so I gave them another pint. Yeah.
Thank you
so
for
I'm
your
at 3 gallons and 2 pints now.
Holy camoli.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That'll be it.
Councilwoman Jimenez?
Yes, I attended the AWC Cities on Tap. It was a Zoom meeting that they were having. They were having about 6 sessions. I attended the 4th session. Just want 2 things I'll share with you. The Cities Action Day Conference, which will be another online Zoom, will be February 10th and 11th for those who are interested. I did learn something which was very interesting to me, and I shared this with the city manager. And, you know, we're talking about all this CARE fund and all this CARE money coming in. And the mayor of Long Beach shared that, you know, how some people aren't able to pay for their water bill right now. So they're kind of like on hold. Well, what the city of Long Beach is doing is they're taking that CARE money and paying off the water bill. So I talked to City Manager Hoyt about that. And do you want to share what you said to me, City Manager Hoyt?
Yeah. Sure. I can jump ahead in my report. That's good.
Oh, okay, well, I'm done. So there you go.
All right. So on this next Monday, November 16th, we'd like to have a special meeting to discuss the remaining CARES Act funds. And we'd like to use those for utility bill relief for our residents. I think we have about, I don't know the number we have left exactly, but there's between $30,000 and $50,000 available. And so it'll be a fast program. We would like to go over in depth with you at that time. Finance, Administrative Services, Zabel and Mallory, Bethu have been working diligently on that, and we're ready to go forward with that. The reason I say it's a tight timeline is because we have to get the CARES Act dollars expended by November 30th. And so anyway, there will be an opportunity to do a credit to utility accounts that are in arrears due to COVID. They'll have some requirements that they have to comply with. I mean, we should be able to then do a direct credit from that account into their utility account and make those people whole, which will also help the city.
Great.
And so while we're at that, the special meeting for Monday the 26th, we need to set up a time for that. We predict it to be about an hour long at the most. I don't know, I guess the times are optional, 5 o'clock or 5:30 or 6.
Is that for this coming Monday, Lance, you were talking about?
Yes. Be the November 16th.
November 16th.
6:30 works for me.
I like it.
Very good.
Does that work for everyone else?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll have a special meeting on Monday the 16th at 6:30 to discuss CARES Act for utility bill relief for residents.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Is there anything else, Lance?
I have a few more things if everyone else is done. An update on the CARES Act 1 and 2 small business distribution. At this point, we've helped about 35 businesses are qualified. We've already got 29 checks out. We have still 6 businesses that need to complete their agreement process and get that into YCDA. YCDA is going to be calling them, well, they were calling them today and tomorrow, and hopefully to get those people their process complete so they can get their money. Maybe at that time, at that special meeting, we'll also discuss if those people are unable to go forward, we might have to move down the list to the next businesses to get these dollars expended. So there is a timeline. We're trying to catch up with those people to let them know that. The other thing I have is the Yakima Regional Clean Air Authority is advertising for let's see, for their board of directors, a seat. They want to fill the small city portion of that. It's basically a they meet every Thursday, once a month on the second Thursday of the month. They usually meet from 2 to 3 o'clock. And so they'll probably be meeting on Zoom to be able to do that. And let's see, too much information here. And so it's the board is a 5-member board. Each board member serves 4 years. They're looking for, and on this board, there's 2 representatives from Yakima County Commissioners, 1 large city representative, 1 small city representative, and 1 member at large. Right now, they're seeking to fill the a nomination bracket for small city representatives. It's currently being held by Jose Trevino, the mayor of Granger. So we have an application, actually a nomination ballot that we'd like to fill out and send in if there's any interested council members that would like to sit on that.
Does Jose not want to do it anymore?
I don't know.
Oh.
It's a process. He's probably at the end of that 4 years, and they probably just need to go through the process again. Basically, we're nominating for people to be on the ballot. Our nominee may or may not be selected. And the ballots are due November 20th. So basically, we can either decide tonight or we need to find out for sure on the 16th so we can submit our ballot.
So are you asking if someone on our council wants to do it, or are you asking if somebody on our council wants to nominate someone?
I think somebody on the council.
Oh.
To nominate someone or to volunteer?
To volunteer.
Oh.
To be nominated.
To be nominated for the opportunity to be on the board.
The opportunity to be nominated.
It says here the mayor can self-appoint or appoint from his council.
Oh, well, the mayor's not here. We can always nominate him. No, I'm kidding.
Go. There you go.
Nominate Mayor Mark Oaks.
Yeah.
You have to be very careful because if COVID, depending on where we're at, they could be meeting then in person again. And so you're looking at a mid-afternoon meeting once a month.
Yeah.
So anybody that's considering serving on it, be thinking about that.
Okay, so I think we should just give people some time to kind of think about it. I know that for myself, that would not work for my work schedule, but maybe there's someone else on the council that can make it work.
Okay.
Can we touch base again on Monday?
Yep. We'll bring it up again Monday and we'll make the decision either to submit or not to submit at that time. And let's see, what else do I have? I had something. Oh, also at the, for the study session on December 7th, the topic could be the tourism money and program. If there aren't any other besides budget to put on there. Okay, thank you.
Great. Is there anything else to come before council tonight? No? Okay, well with that, I will, yes.
As you see with the preliminary budget up next on November 20th will be the preliminary budget will be available to the public. On November 23rd, we'll have our first budget hearing and our 2021 revenue public hearing also. And then on the December 7th will be our final, hopefully it'll be our final budget public hearing.
Okay. Anything else to come before the council? Okay, then with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How do you get up? Boom.
What?